I hope you're having a wonderful day, and today we're going to be talking about operator roles in Rainbow Six Siege, such as Fleck, Entry Fragger, Support, Roamer, and Anchor. I did put up a poll earlier, 52 minutes ago. It has 2k votes, and we're going to go through the votes in a minute. So the least votes meant they are the easiest, and the most votes meant they are the hardest to play. And then we're just going to go through and talk about what the role is and why it's easy or why it's hard, and so on. So the voted most easiest is Anchor. 8% said Anchor. An Anchor is a player or operator who just sits on site and pretty much just hold angles, you know, just to defend a site. But an Anchor might not necessarily just sit on site. They might defend a general area and just not move from that one room. So think of an Anchor when you just anchor down, like on a boat. When you drop your anchor, the boat stops. Like an Anchor just sits still and usually just walks around in a very limited area. An Anchor is usually known as like Maestro, Echo, Smoke maybe could be considered one, but I think Smoke is more of a support. But yeah, just like the heavy boys that would just sit on site. And I believe this is the easiest just because it is the like least skill that you need to do, and overall it's just really easy, like just having to sit, like go on cams and just use your Maestro turret, or just sit there and hold an angle, not having to like, whereas like with roaming you have to kind of strategize, move around, like use your timer, knowing like, oh, there's 1 minute 30 left, I need to do this, go there. Whereas the Anchor will literally just sit there and hold an angle. Obviously that doesn't then mean to say that they don't get in difficult situations, because obviously all these roles go to a certain extent of their skill. So like a really top tier Anchor would obviously be better than the worst like Entry Fragger. So yeah, these roles do all have their like limitations and how good they can get within that role. So the easiest role to play is Anchor. The second easiest role to play, according to you guys, is Support with 12% votes. So a support player is obviously someone who supports the team, like Thatcher. I'm pretty sure like with any game there's always a support character, which would be known like as the medic in other games, or healers. Whereas in a game with Rainbow, support players are operators like Smoke, Thatcher. Thatcher is a really big known support player. You know, Carly, the people that would just like sit in the back, support the team, heal the team, drone for the team, and will just overall support the team. A support player could also be the bomb planter. Like in Pro League, every team has a dedicated planter, Goga. And like Goga from G2, who used to be in G2, is now in Vitality, I believe. Sorry if I got that wrong. Like, he's the support. He will do the planting. He will be playing the Thatcher. He will be giving the calls. That doesn't necessarily mean that Entry Fraggers won't give calls, Roamers won't give calls, so on and so on. But a support player is the second easiest to play, according to you guys, which I guess I could see why. Knowing like Thatcher, you just click a button, everything's gone, you've done your support. But I think that it does go to a certain extent, like having to plant the bomb. Planting the bomb is really hard. But then again, thinking about it, it is the Entry Fraggers that does the job. Like, they clear it out so the person can plant, whereas the support doesn't necessarily go through the stages of killing the people and then planting. Obviously that doesn't mean support players don't kill, but I think you know where I'm getting at. The Entry Fraggers will do the killing and then the supports will just plant while the Fragger would protect. But yeah, support is second most easiest. So Anchor is easiest, support second easiest. The third easiest, or the third hardest, since it's in the middle of the five, is Roamer, or roaming, at 15% roaming. So this is the middle stage on easy and hard. Roaming is someone who will be away from site. Obviously there are some extents to roaming, like deep roaming, shallow roaming. Shallow roaming is someone who will roam around the objective, or will roam near the objective, and you know, we'll just kind of do a shallow roam, just slowly walk around the objective. And then there's deep roaming, where someone would be really far away from the objective and would usually come really late into the round just to finish up what's being done. Or you just have overall roaming where you just run around the entire map. Roamers are usually known as like Jaeger, Ella, Vigil, Alibi. Vigil's gadget is specifically made for roaming, being able to deny that droning ability for the attackers, so that makes it very hard for attackers to clear out the roaming, such as someone like Vigil, where they could waste a lot of time. And like playing a Vigil does take skill, knowing when to activate the gadget, because you don't always want to activate it, because then the drones would know you're in the area, whereas if you had it off, the drones could have drove past you without knowing you're there. They come in freebie, but if you activated the gadget, they would have known you're in the area and would have played a bit more cautious. So obviously, like, there is an extent to how easy it is and how hard it is knowing how to roam. So I agree with your guys' vote, having it the middle ground. It's very easy, sometimes very hard. Like I said, it all depends on the rank and your skill as a player yourself. But yeah, I think the role of roaming, there is a lot of pressure on you, because you do need to make kills to have an effect on the round, because if your role is roaming, you do need to get kills to have an effect, and you do have that pressure. You do have all the attackers focusing you, so it is very hard to play roamer. So that's the middle ground. The second hardest role to play is entry fragger. 25% of you guys voted entry fragger. An entry fragger is someone who will just open up the kills, or overall would just do the killing, do the fragging. But specifically the word entry is someone who will walk into site, get a couple kills to open up to the team to make a play. So an Ash could walk into site, get like smoke and maestro, and then that would open up in a round. Like now the supports can go in, now the flexes can go in, now your team can go in. So an entry fragger is really hard, because you do need to gain that skill of like having good aim, having good knowledge on where the enemies are. Obviously you have your supports to do that, and then like aiming, it all comes down to like gun skill, and that is very, very hard to do. That is why you see people like Bolo and Godly and Spoit and all that. That is why you see people like get the views on YouTube. They're so big on YouTube because they entry frag, and that is a very hard role to do. So seeing someone able to do that really well, obviously you're going to gain that population just because of how hard it is. And it mostly just comes down to gun skill and having the knowledge of where enemies would be based on like footsteps and so on. Like I've said many times, like yes, this can be done with like a support player. Like yes, a support player can listen to footsteps and know who to kill, but an entry fragger really has to focus on that skill, since they are the ones doing the kills and the ones who will walk in first to do the killing. So yeah, I agree with you guys, it is very hard to entry frag, but a really good entry fragger is usually the carry of the team and is the one who opens up the play of the round, and so on. But the voted most hardest operator role to play is flex. A flex player is someone who has to fill in the role of every single role. So if your team doesn't have a support player, the flex will fill in that role of playing support. If your team doesn't have a roamer, like your team's in need of a roamer, that flex player will play the roamer. And then next round, that flex player might play an anchor. So a flex is one who can flex across the board and play all roles. So I totally agree that flex is the hardest, because essentially it just means that they have to master every single role on this list. They have to be good at like roam clearing, they have to be good at support, they have to be good at entry fragger. There are some really good comments where was it? Flex is the hardest because you have to know way more game sense than any other player. Fragger doesn't need to know about thermite fracture tricking, just like how a support player doesn't have to frag out. A flex has to be well rounded in all areas, that is true. An Ash main doesn't have to learn all the thermite trick, whereas a support player would have to learn the thermite trick, but a support player wouldn't have to learn the tricks of fragging. A flex operator or player would have to learn both, would have to learn the thermite tricking, would have to learn the fragging capability. So I totally agree with you guys, flex is the most hardest role to play. A flex operator is very hard to define what what operators are assigned to a flex, because there isn't really a flex operator. It's more of a flex player. Ash is a frag operator. There are technically no flex operators. It's more of a flex player who just plays the Ash, who plays the Maestro, and so on and so on. I guess you could say operators like Nomad or Gridlock could be flex because they have that fragging capability and support in one operator, but overall a flex player is one who just plays all roles. So yeah, those are the easiest two hardest roles to play in Rainbow Six Siege. If there are any other ideas you guys want me to make a video on, let me know in the comments down below. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and goodbye.